Hello, everyone. Welcome to this week's Thursday Night Live. I'm WebWitch. I'll be your host, and we are joined by CryptoKait, who will be talking about Gina's blog on how to run your NCL recaps. We would have Gina with us today, but she is currently dying. She is not feeling well. So, so CryptoKait's going to be going over that.
So we'll quickly go over. Gina wrote this blog for me. I was a little bit burnt out, and I was like, Gina, help. Because Gina was who took over for me as coach at Pace when I graduated. I think she did a really great job. And but the big thing is we wanted to highlight the fact that you, within your schools, can have what we call a preseason recap. So while you can't necessarily go on the Slack channels and start talking about methodologies and tools and stuff, if you are working with your school or working with a small group or a local community group, at this time, you can talk about methodologies or tools. You cannot give flags. You can never give flags. You cannot share files. Like if somebody doesn't have the file, you can't send them the file. You can't post write-ups. You'll see that there's some content like that in our blog. We go through a lot to get like specifically approved, and it gets pre-read and authorized, and it's a challenge. If you're interested in writing write-ups, you can come work on our Player Ambassador board and follow all the fun rules that we follow, and then you can post them. If you are a school and you have a school team, you can have write-ups that don't publish the flags internally for like your team use, but you can't like share them like publicly where everybody can see them. Basically, like think about it like this: if it could help someone get to a flag that they might not previously have gotten to, it's probably against the rules. That's the best way to think about it. But you can at this time kind of start to talk. So Gina made a recommendation that I didn't even think of, which was focus on the problem areas and figure out what your team sort of struggles with. For my teams, it was always network traffic because I'm not great at Wireshark. Like I'm adequate, barely sufficient, but I'm not really a strong Wireshark user. So it was always hard for me to coach that. So we would always start with the Wireshark challenges so that, we could pool our knowledge together and sort of work through some of the things that maybe if Fee, Gina, John, and I were on a team, maybe Fee got like the hard questions and Gina got the medium, and I just sat over here doing easy. Honestly, whenever I'm in Wireshark, I'm like humming like Wireshark because like I don't know what I'm doing. It's rough, but I get through. Yeah. Maxwell McGill and WebWitch are definitely your network traffic people. Oh, we missed out on John tonight, but we have another shark with us.
This is the Wireshark.
So yeah, just figure out sort of like what you can use sort of tribal knowledge to help you all grow. Sometimes there'll be open source challenges where people struggle. I know one time the only way to find the answer for the open source challenge was to have found a specific image on Google where like a password was written on a blackboard in the background, like on a dry erase board. And like, that's something where like, oh yeah, I just Googled this specific term, you pull it up and like you show like where you found it. And like, that's interesting because that same challenge probably won't reappear, but especially the harder challenges, the more difficult the challenges, the more likely that Cyber Skyline might use it again in another game, or they might put a different spin or flavor on it to reuse it. I've seen challenges that like went 2 or 3 seasons, nobody solved it, so they just kept bringing it back until like multiple people solved it. So at this point, you can share within your smaller teams. At no point can you share super publicly, but this is a really good time to also like get together, have some pizza, have some like, family style food, wherever you can like sort of get together and have that like bonding time. You can complain. My favorite thing about the recap is complaining that like,
just how it goes. You need to blow off some steam because you won't be able to discuss things while you're doing the regular season game. And believe me, you're going to want to yell at something.
Honestly, this season during preseason, I at one point was like screaming into the void because every challenge that I worked on, I would get all but one question.
Oh no, that's
and
not...
I've seen every challenge that was in preseason. I know every, and I have notes somewhere. Which computer the notes are on, God knows. But I have every, like, I have my notes.
Yeah, the same thing happened to me. I looked at the reversing malware and I went, I literally have done this before.
Yeah. Preseason tends to have a lot of things come back. That's one of the reasons that we don't allow write-ups, because preseason is usually, refreshed content. It was interesting that I found the RSA challenge, which comes up a lot, and I couldn't find my bookmark. So a lot of people, okay, so I don't decrypt RSA, which some people found out in the Slack is like, I don't decrypt it. And people are like, then how do you get the answer? Isn't the exact challenge to decrypt it? Not necessarily. There's more than one way to skin a cat. I might reverse engineer the encryption because, what order you put the letters in doesn't matter in RSA. It's not a Vigenère cipher. So, you can take a different route. And that's the kind of thing that you could sort of talk about in your small group. So if Fee and I were both like talking about RSA and Fee was like, and Gina said, I didn't get the RSA challenge. And then WebWitch says, oh, I got it. I used this tool and I was able to decrypt it. And then I would say, like, I never figured out how to decrypt it. I just figured out what I needed to encrypt it and encrypted every letter of the alphabet, every number, every symbol, and went from there. And then it was a substitution cipher, which we can all manage.
I hadn't even thought about doing that before.
You know what? I still don't know how to decrypt RSA.
I can teach you. I taught Gina how to do it. I taught her on a piece of paper. It was rough.
Oh my God.
Rough.
You did it by hand?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Do that. Well, it's not entirely by hand. It's a combination of using paper and some online tools, but like, I walked her through it. It's possible.
I also figure out the primes in my head. Like, I'll sit there and be like, okay, I can count by prime numbers, which is a weird, like, unimportant skill that I just happen to have. Like, I got some ticks.
It's a good skill, though.
I can count by prime numbers. So I'll be like, it's probably like 13 or higher. So I'll start at like 13 and it'll be like, all right, divide by 13, divide by 17, divide by 23. And then when I get a whole number, I'm like, is this a prime number? And I'll keep counting until I get, yeah, that's a prime number. Cool. And that's how I found my prime.
I think these are the kind of things that can be really useful to share when you're doing your recaps, because some people may be able to figure out problems in a different way than you were thinking. And sometimes those work better for some people than others. And so sharing the different types of ways you figure out a problem is also really useful. There's no real like one way to do something.
So that's a big thing that we would do is it was kind of more of like a table discussion rather than let me show you how to do the things. So if we were talking about Wireshark, my first season, there was like a TTL and I didn't know what that was. And I spent far too long looking for it. And it turns out TTL is just like time to live, which, is super easy to find if you know that it's time to live because it's literally listed as like time to live. But by naming it TTL and me not knowing what TTL was, I spun myself in circles for far too long. And they were like, oh, you just have to look for time to live in the like details, like all those little drop down boxes in the bottom bar, click all of them down and look at everything. You're going to find time to live. So while these are sort of talking about the challenges, it's in very like vague ways that sort of tell you, oh, this is how to get started. This is what path you need to go down without saying these are the step-by-step things you do with the exact commands that you do, because then people aren't really learning. They're not going to grow from that. They're going to write down exactly what you say, and
they're going to just repeat it the next time they see it.
It's going to be regurgitation rather than like owning that knowledge for themselves. So, when you do your recaps, try to be careful. Try not to, say, oh, I pulled up this specific tool and I did this specific thing. Whereas, for password cracking, I used Hashcat or I used Kait. Like, that's a very, vague and it gives them a direction without giving them step-by-step. And that's really what you really want to try to do, is give people the right path. Like, point them in a good direction, wind them up, and watch them go.
So we have a couple of questions relating to this. Just to be clear, or Rami asks, just so I'm clear, we can discuss the challenges from the preseason with other folks to learn how they were solved. Specifically with people that are like, that you have like physical contact with mostly, in the sense
yeah, so like people you know.
Like the club. You can't.
So like
can't share them
John and I might talk. John and I have never lived in the same state, but we compete in a lot of other competitions together. So John and I used to talk at preseason and be like, "Man, I got this close, and I know I'm a step away." Like, you know, we would talk a little bit, but these were people I actually knew. That's kind of that's the best way to like divide it, is people you actually know and in person. Even if it's not in person, if you decide to get together and do, you know, a Discord or whatever, you know, communication method, as long as it's like relatively small groups, you're not out there publishing the content, you're not out there, you know, sharing it with everybody. There will be a methodologies chat definitely after individual. I don't know if it opens after individual or after team. That's a Cyber Skyline call.
I do think it opens after individual.
I think so too.
There was stuff that I looked up after the individual game and then promptly groaned because I realized I was an idiot. But
I mean, every season, that's the effect. But basically it's at this point where, like, if you have a community at your school that does NCL, this is where you can sort of help grow and build that community. And it also helps you sort of talk to each other and figure out what each other's skills were, so you can start thinking about team, because you're going to have to select teams very soon.
Yep.
So this is a good time to sort of talk about different like learning strategies, different ways you like to work, different schedules. If you put somebody who like only wants to work at like 2-3 in the morning, with somebody who only wants to work at like 8 a.m., it's not a good fit. They're going to kill each other.
Depends on how that overlaps, but
if it doesn't overlap, if you never have any like if they're just, you know, ships sailing and crossing in the night and they never see each other again, it's not effective.
So if someone doesn't have people that they know in the community yet, because I'm sure you will all get to know each other either through Slack or from whatever other ways you guys end up interacting. It's Maria asks, for first time here, though my Penn State officers have been bugging me to play a few months ago, do we have any blogs or YouTube channel to visit for newbies? Good question. Since this is your first time, we do have CryptoKait's blog, which we have linked in a couple different places. I think that there's at the bottom of the screen, or the link at the bottom of the screen that says check out Kait's blog. That has access to all of the different content written so far for this season, and I think some content from previous seasons as well. Yes.
I mean, I've been writing for like 3 years.
Yeah, so like...
But like the farther you go back, the worse it is. So like... Well, your girl was learning, okay?
It's a learning process.
And I never take anything down, because I think if somebody wants to go back and look at like baby Kait trying to write her first like tools that I use in the NCL games, like you can definitely see how far I've progressed.
Yeah.
I mean, I still recommend Excel, but
Kait.
Look, it's my jam. You could say that I'm excellent at it.
Okay.
Zena's also giving me a dirty look, so that's when you know it's bad.
See, the dog knows what's up. A couple of other associated questions. Loken asks, how can we expect preseason performance to translate to individual game performance?
So if it's your first season that you're ever playing, you will see an improvement, period. Because you're a little more familiar and it's less intimidating. Like you just have a general like baseline going in. So you're gonna do better if you put in the same amount of effort. If you put in more effort, you're still gonna do better. Like it's only gonna be improvement. If you've played before and you recognized a lot of the challenges, because like I said, preseason is usually a refreshed set. It doesn't necessarily translate. I've seen people who were like, oh man, I learned how to do all of these challenges from someone else in recaps, but I never actually learned to do them myself. So they'll do really well on those challenges, but they won't necessarily perform as well in the individual game. But for the most part, I think if you worked pretty independently and you used your knowledge and not something you borrowed from someone else, you will improve. I think every time you play the games, you get a little better, you get a little more sure of yourself. I think the confidence grows every time you play, and I think that's a key factor in how well you perform. So, yeah, I think you'll just do great. I think everyone will do great.
There's not like a one-to-one or any kind of like formula we can give you, but like
there's additional skills in it as well. So like some people will see web exploitation for the first time in individual, and then they'll tank their accuracy trying to get that for the first time. So it really varies. It depends on what type of personality you have, how competitive you are, how independent of a learner you are, how well you are at learning on the fly. There's so many factors that there's just not a straight answer that fits everyone.
All right. Rami asks, have we been bracketed yet? The website says it should have been done yesterday, but I don't see anything.
Yes. So the bracketing is in progress. The current cutoffs are gold is going to be about 628-ish people, which is about 1,115 points and 63.3% accuracy or better. Silver right now is about 629 to 2,093. So that's about 545 points and 80.3% accuracy or higher. And then bronze is everything from 2,094 to everybody else. I'm not going to read that number because that's too much math. There is some juggling going around. So Cyber Skyline does perform cheating audits even during the preseason. And if any players are removed, you could actually go up. You will never go down. You never have to worry about going down. So if you are 628th place or better, you will be in gold. If you are 2,093rd place or better, you will be in silver. If you did not make close to 2,093, don't expect much. But that's okay if you're in bronze. I think bronze is a good place to be. It means that you have the most opportunity to grow from season to season, and I think growth over many seasons is better than just like killing it one season and then not playing games.
Yeah.
So they're tentative. They will send out an official email when it's official, but this is just like, I texted Franz and was like, hey, somebody asked, give me where they stand right now.
All right. So if anyone else has any running preseason recap questions, put those in the thing. We do have two assorted questions if you'd like to answer those.
Let's go for it.
Can there be a requirement for all NCL player ambassadors to have a partner dog with an NCL themed name? No.
I think I don't think you're not a dog person, right? You're a cat person.
I am definitely a dog person.
Okay.
I love dogs. However, I also love cats. I love animals. I had chickens for a while. Like,
me too.
Chickens are great. They're so dumb. I love them.
They really are. Also, my niece named her chickens after the Golden Girls.
That's awesome.
She called them the ladies.
That's wonderful. I named mine Buffy the Beetle Slayer because she was like a chick maybe this big, and she ate a beetle that was the size of her head, and we were all very concerned she was going to choke on it, and she was fine. We're like...
But yeah, Privacy Pupper's been on Twitter for a long time. Privacy Pupper's on Twitter. I don't know how many of you guys know this, but Xena is a service animal for me, so she does travel to conferences with me. She goes most places with me. So it was a lot easier when people were, like, only following me for her to just give her her own Twitter so that I could have, like, I would get less DMs that were like, post more dogs. Like, I think I do it a lot, but okay.
Well, getting back on track, do you have any other suggestions for how you ran preseason recaps, or anything that you found really useful, ways to, teach people stuff?
Of course, I didn't think about that before this broadcast. Prepared. I think one of the things that I did was I would try to make everybody talk about at least one thing.
Yeah.
Like, I think one season, the first time cron jobs happened, only one guy on our team like figured it out, and this is a person who like never like spoke up, who never really was like involved in practices. Like he kept to himself, and we had to like. I always have like coaches in training. Like if I'm coaching, I'm also teaching 2 to 3 people to coach. So Gina and I think you guys have met Vicente previously. I was like training them to take over as coaches when I left, and I would like constantly send them to go like check on this person, and then like he just randomly like was the only person on our team that figured out cron jobs in the preseason that it appeared. So like that like was super helpful, and we had him like talk about it, and he taught us like what a cron job was and sort of what kind of like tools to look for and how you can do it by hand. He literally got up and like, this is how you can calculate cron jobs by hand, and drew us a little map, and we were all like, oh, which I know it's such a simple concept, but we just didn't know it. Like we were not exposed to it.
Yeah, I mean, fundamentally, there's not necessarily a ton of people who are going to come into this knowing right off the bat like what some of these things are. So when you do find those people who have like
a niche skill,
yeah, it's very choice.
I definitely also like to ask people like what challenge did they struggle with the most and then succeed. And even if it's like a Caesar shift cipher, like if that's what you struggled with the most, I'm gonna have you present that to the group and talk about how you failed, like all the different ways you failed, which I know a lot of people don't like to talk about failing, but I think you learn more from failing than you do from succeeding, because I promise if you fail like 50 times on the same challenge and figure it out, you're never going to forget how to do it. You're just not.
It's true.
So we'll have people who like overcame something that they found really difficult, talk about those challenges. If we find out that only one person on the team figured something out, like we'll have them talk about that. It's really just like, let's hang out and sort of like lament our woes and share them. And I know it's a weird approach. I know it's such a weird like approach, but it's more fun to like get together and be like, man, this kicked my butt. And then somebody be like, oh yeah, no, I figured that out. I just like looked up like cron job calculator, and then like I just plugged it in and it was there. And then some other guy, you know, was like, oh no, you can actually do this by hand. And you know, the way we talked about the RSA earlier, like, you know, WebWitch was able to decrypt it, like, cool, still don't know how to do that. We'll talk later. I reverse engineered the encryption because I knew exactly how it was encrypted, and I was like, well, position doesn't matter in RSA. It's not like the first position is going to translate to something different than the 7th position. So I made my own little substitution cipher once I had enough information. So just kind of like hanging out and getting to know how your teammates played the games is, I think, the most important part, because you're going to figure out who you want to work with.
Yep.
What about you? Anything that you do? Do you do a preseason recap or?
We never really did we didn't do a ton of preseason stuff. We already had a schedule written out of like the things that we were going to go over up to like preseason, and then between preseason and like we had scheduled this like months in advance, and like
so
what
did
we were going to talk about. So we would kind of do the same thing. We'd just kind of let people like gripe about like, well, this sucked. Like, what did anyone know like this thing? And we definitely did the same kind of like, if someone knew what they were talking about, we'd pass the torch over onto them and be like, would you like to explain that to people? I don't know how things are going since I have left. I should check in with them, actually. I should probably check in.
Isn't it a weird feeling when you're like done?
I left something behind.
I know.
What was it doing? Yeah.
And, like, I think having Gina helped me transition from that phase. So like, Gina, how is so-and-so doing? Did so-and-so remember to do this? Did you check on this person? Like, I was like sideline coaching and driving her nuts.
I've tried to keep my hands out of it because I don't want to helicopter parent it.
I helicoptered Gina to death. I'm not gonna
But I still get all the email. I still have my school email, so I still get the emails of like the updates that people send, and they'll be like, "Oh, we're meeting tonight. Remember to bring this, this, and this. We're going to be talking about this." And then I just kind of see updates. So I'm like, "Wow, they're doing so well." As far as I'm aware,
isn't that the best feeling?
It's a very good feeling. I feel like I did something. If any of y'all are a part of clubs and stuff, it's very rewarding to help build those. Okay, we got another question here. How should I go about sharpening my RE skills, specifically binary REs?
That's a good question, because I don't know how to do those yet.
Yeah, there are some tools that you can use and some walkthroughs that you can look for online. I don't actually have the names off the top of my head, although I have several resources, and we'll probably end up doing.
I think we have it on the schedule for next season, so it wasn't.
Yeah.
It didn't fit in this season schedule because we started a new program and it was crazy. But we do have.
We will be doing a thing on reverse engineering.
I don't know if it's reverse engineering
RE?
specific. I think it's like the whole category that RE falls under. Which
yeah.
I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm still working out that schedule. So we don't have any content on it yet, but I'm probably throwing it at WebWitch for next season.
Why me? Oh,
because you're the only one that knows how to do it. I will say I am in the process of getting something really cool to happen for you guys if you are able to beat all of the player ambassadors. I don't know if it'll happen for both individual and team. It will definitely happen if you can beat the player ambassador team, because we have an awesome team with such a diverse skill set. Yeah. So I don't know. We're gonna go in and go hard on team, because we've got if I could pick my ideal team. You're looking at it with us four. So I will make something very. You know what? I'm gonna talk about it because I'm gonna make it happen. It's still pending approval, but that's okay. I want to send certificates, award certificates, to the coaches of the teams that actually beat us. So yeah, well, we're playing the individual game. If you can beat all four of us in individual, we're trying to make something happen for that. It won't be the same thing, but I have an idea.
Many things.
I mean, if you guys can think of some really cool player ambassador team names, that'd be great. If you just crowdsource it, help us out. We're running out of creative energy at this point in the season, because not only are we dropping our content every week, but we're competing and working and
full time.
I mean, honestly, I know that
searching for them.
There have been some interesting proposals about OSIing some Kait facts for content for the games. So it's very likely that they could ask, what food will Kait not eat? And there's a list. It actually aligns a lot with Link from Good Mythical Morning. Gina and I found this list and almost died laughing because we have a very similar list.
Nice.
It's expansive and ridiculous.
I'm gonna rewind the conversation about a minute. If anyone wants to give us ideas for the ambassador team name, tweet it at all of us so we can find it and see it. And perhaps, Crypto, this is more your thing, but we might be able to give you a little bit of stickers, some fun stuff if your name ends up getting chosen. If we don't end up choosing any names, then but
I mean, I try to give out stuff all the time, to the point of NCL being like, Kait, when are we gonna stop?
Which is why I said it's more your thing. I don't exactly have the poll that you have, so I can't promise anything. But
I usually don't get approved, and I just kind of tell them I'm doing it anyway.
Yeah, that's pretty accurate, actually. Okay.
This is the important content. Do we have any other questions?
I was just double checking. The last one is really just has Gina picked her nickname yet, and the answer is
no. There weren't that many submissions. Not a lot of people tweeted at us, so she hasn't been crazy inspired by any of the ones that have come through. I know somebody put some really good stuff in the chat on the video, but they never tweeted it at her. And our Twitter's the only way we're accepting submissions, because we have to look that stuff up later. We have a lot of videos, and we're not scrolling through all of them. Side note, these chats are only monitored when we are on the screen live.
So don't be assholes. I'll swear.
Facts.
I'll swear right now. No, don't do it.
Please, because
you're better than that.
Let's be honest here. We have opened the game up to high schoolers, so there are players as young as 14 who could be watching this content. So let's try to have a little bit of respect for the sheltered little ones that we're trying to help break into the industry.
And if you aren't, I will come for you.
Mama bear mode.
All right. Since that's
last call for questions.
Anyone? Last call for questions, preferably
related
relevant
to
the topic.
Well, this show's been a little short, a lot of fun. Next week's show will be on Wednesday because Halloween. I was not skipping Halloween for you guys, and I was going to cancel the show, but instead I moved it to Wednesday. What are we talking about next week? Do you know?
Let me double check. We seem to be talking about why the NCL scouting report is important.
Oh, that fun, really old blog. Basically, we're going to talk about one of the oldest blogs that I wrote, which is what the importance of the NCL scouting report is and how you can use it. If I have time to write more content by then, we're going to talk about how to use it on your LinkedIn, how to use it on your resume, some strategies to get employers to notice it and ask you for it and talk to you about it. So that'll be lots of fun stuff.
Yeah, that'll be good. And who will be on that? That will be...
We have no idea. We haven't got that far. I think I assigned it to everyone.
Maybe I should check the Trello board again.
Yeah,
I don't remember if I signed myself up as host for that one. But anyway, there will be a series of us on here talking about why that is important. I'll give you the short rundown, which is it helped me get a job.
Same, and Gina too.
So we can talk about how that works and also all the other stuff that Kait mentioned. But for the time being...
it looks like I'm probably hosting, so I'll be here and we'll see who else.
So I think that's all we have for you tonight. It's always nice to talk. We should do it in costume. Yes. If
I almost bought robes. Oh, for our show next week?
Yeah. Wait 1 second. I'm
trying to think if any of my costumes are nearby. Your hat is behind you. I love you.
Now I'm in costume.
I don't know if my costume is wholesome enough to be on here.
What's your costume?
It's fine. Look, guys, I was gonna go to a party with adults and drinking. Okay, I wasn't planning on being on a show where potential 14-year-old boys might watch the show.
Right. So that will be all for today. Nice talking to you guys as always. We'll see you next week. Remember, on Wednesday, not Thursday, because we love Halloween. I love Halloween, and we would like to enjoy it. So we're going to just move the cast a little bit earlier. Any other things that they should know before we go?
Kick butt, take names. The competition starts next weekend, so that's the last show before individual game. Make sure you're getting ready for individual game. Check out our top 10 tips. That's probably the best place to start. If you haven't checked out that blog, it's from a week ago. I'm pretty sure you can find it. CryptoKait.com. It's not hard. That probably has every good piece of advice that we would give in this last minute segment here. So from now on, we can skip last advice and just say, as seen in our previous works, like Gilderoy Lockhart.
Previous works. All right.
I did it in the CryptoKait coaching guide. I pulled a Gilderoy Lockhart and pointed to my previous works.
Nice. All right. Well, see ya.
Have a good night, all.